Hey, Tara.
What's up, Marilyn? Hey, people.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our Guru Talk today. Tara, did you know it was Giving Tuesday?
You are so giving. I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. And in honor of Giving Tuesday, we are giving the world knowledge for free. Can you believe that?
For free 99. Okay,
Free 99,
and
absolutely.
who are we?
We are the solo CEOs, ladies and gentlemen. I am Marilyn, and that is Miss Who?
Tara Winston. Hi.
Listen, I want to first thank everybody who joined us today. And I am so excited to introduce one of our friends and, more importantly, a masterful speaker and educator. Her name is Susan Morrow. And of course, we're going to get way deep into the weeds with her about AI. But let me just give you some backstory on our journey with AI. I think I learned most of it from either Tara or TikTok. But when Tara and I started talking about it, we realized, you know what? We're not the only ones trying to figure this out as far as how can we make our business better. And so Tara says, "Hey, I have the perfect person." Susan, I said, "What you talking about? Say more." And she started telling me about all the stuff that Susan does with AI and in her business. And oh, by the way, she has started businesses and she's currently in the midst of launching another one. So I've been doing most of the talking. Tara, I want to invite you in on this conversation so people can hear your voice too.
All right. So, real talk. I've known Susan for 25 years, and she has been amazing. She's been committed to that beautiful intersection of technology and how it benefits all the people, not just the people that we think of, the Silicon Valley overlords. And so she's been great at translating it for real people. And so I spent about an hour with Susan talking through AI. So for those of you who don't know the Soul CEOs, we are a community with resources, learning, and events for solopreneurs. And so when I went to Susan, I was like, Susan, there's all this information. Even Marilyn and her TikTok teachers are talking about AI, but I don't know how to use it for my business, and I don't have time to get a degree in AI in order to translate. So in one
Yes.
hour, she completely changed how I used AI. And so, but that's when I told Marilyn, like, we got to get Susan on. So I can't waste not a single minute more. You think we should bring her up?
I really think we should bring her out because I don't want to waste any time. You know, TikTok gives us 3 minutes. Susan is going to give us a minimum of 40. Go figure. And listen, for everybody who is live with us, please, if you have any questions, drop all of your questions in the chat and we will definitely try and answer all the questions. If you have been with us before, you know we really do try and get all of your questions answered. But listen, I'm not going to stay longer than I need to. I want to say, see y'all later on the back end of this conversation. Susan, it is so wonderful to have you. And thank you for just sharing with us and our community. I'll see you ladies later.
All
Bye,
right.
Marilyn. Susan, look now. I warned you in advance. We about to clown today.
I'm in for it. I'm all here for it. Like, you have no idea how excited I am. And I'm so glad you shared with people that we met when we were toddlers
You
25
know
years
what? I mean,
ago.
25 years ago, what, 4, 5? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, we look good for our age.
Mhm.
Thank you. Um,
Mhm.
so the first question I asked you when we started talking about AI was about this whole idea of, is AI the death of expertise, right? And so our community is full of people who sell their expertise as their businesses. So how do we think about AI and not feel threatened? Is there space for us in this new world?
Yeah, one of the reasons I was so excited to work with you when we first were, asking like, how do you use AI? I'm like, oh, for what you do for solopreneurs, AI is an incredible tool. I mean, it really is. It can really change how you work. And the reason for this, and I think the reason there's a lot of misunderstanding is because there's understandable fear in general about technology. And there's a lot of reasons why people talk about AI in terms of fear and in terms of things that you don't understand. They make things seem very complicated. But one quick way to understand what AI does is it's like having a really, 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 really smart intern working for you all the time. And it's not just that, but in terms of how much faster you can go, it really advantages people with deep expertise. Like that's the thing too. I think everyone talks about like, entry level jobs are going away. Okay. I mean, we could talk about that, but the bigger thing is let's talk about what it does do, right? What it does do is for people who already have expertise, you can go faster. You can amplify what you know. It's a fantastic tool.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's make that happen, right? Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how you think about using AI to do those things in your business.
Sure. Well, I think maybe we should start too with how most people think about AI. Like if you go on TikTok and if you've taken a course or something, one of the first things people will talk about is how to prompt, right? They'll have prompting libraries and prompting tips and you'll find
I saved a bunch. Like my TikTok is full of like 15 people telling me how to use different words in prompting.
Exactly. And okay, I understand why people do it. And it's not that it doesn't matter, but okay, it kind of doesn't matter. And here's why. Because what you really need to understand is that you're having a logical conversation. Kind of classic term, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
AI can only do for you what you actually give it. The idea of a prompt is to try to help you structure your instructions, your requests. But here's the thing, like that's transactional, right? That's like going up and like ordering French fries. Okay. What you really needed to do was ask how to like do sous vide. If you do that, and if you do, you should cook for me. But I mean, the point there is like you're using it for something that's such a basic thing that one, you'll be disappointed, and two, it's like what's all this about? And you'll get bad results as a result. So the one thing I would say is thinking about things in terms of prompts probably it's not nearly enough. Instead, think about how you can train it to work for you. And training, by the way, that's another word that sounds complicated. It's not. And so that's really where I would start is let's actually look at this as the tool that it is and what you can do with it.
Okay, so it's my intern and I have to train it. How do I do this? And how do I even know what the right work is for this intern?
Well, there's a couple ways that you can do that. One is honestly, especially for your first start, I'd say go with what kind of is obvious and what you see other people doing. Probably one of the first things, especially that non-technical people do with AI, is they use it for copywriting. And you know what? It's really good for copywriting.
Okay, wait, stop. I've read some shit copywriting from AI. So
yes, you have.
Help me.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
So it can only, okay, let's demystify AI, right? First of all, I mean, what we're talking, not all AI, but specifically we're talking about generative AI that uses large language models. Okay, a large language model is just doing pattern recognition among words. So the reason that you get crappy responses is because it's picking words. It's just picking patterns that fit what you asked it to do. So if you don't give it better instructions, you won't get better content. Okay. So the first thing to really do is when you think about what you want to use it for, and I pick on copywriting intentionally because you already almost certainly have everything you need to start. You actually don't need to do much more work. You need to go pull together things. So remember I said a large language model does pattern recognition. If you give a large language model a body of your writing or transcriptions of your speeches, it will determine from that your natural voice, your typical patterns, the things you do and don't do, and it can actually pull instructions based on how you currently speak. That's one big tool for copywriting is you don't say, tell me how to send an email. You say, here's all this other email. Here's the body of work that I typically do. Now I want to explain this concept. Do it in that voice. So we can talk more about how to craft the instructions, but that's the concept behind it. The concept is you need to give it more to get better results back. And the idea of a prompt is considered usually like a 1 or 2 what they call them shot, like one shot, multi-shot, one or two kind of requests. Oh, there's my dog behind us. She's here for the party. I just knew somehow she would show up. And then, but those are prompts. The other thing I think we should talk about is, and we should demystify it, is the idea of a custom, either GPT or project. You can train things with just your information.
Okay. Wait. We're gonna slow it down for everybody taking notes. Y'all got your pens. Like everybody taking notes, right? So when you talking about a custom GPT or some type of system. So the one thing, Susan, when you and I were talking, everyone talks about Chat GPT, but this could also be Claude, Perplexity, whatever your chosen large learning model, LLM, is. These things work. And so I can create on any of these, I can create a custom something. What is it's a thing?
Well, it's, this area is really evolving and people have different names for it. So, and they don't all work the same. For Gemini, which is the Google LLM, they have something called gems. And they have the same idea, which is, well, I'll tell you, Gemini has a gem, Claude, which is by Anthropic. Claude has projects. ChatGPT also has projects, but they have something called a custom GPT. Because they were the first to make this available, people often refer to that. And honestly, for the purposes of this conversation, it might be easiest if we talk in terms of ChatGPT so we can use the right language. But I'll just say for the record, like I use more than ChatGPT. I think it's a great place to start. But I'm actually believe in being agnostic because they change so quickly. But anyway, in ChatGPT, it's called a custom GPT. But the structure is the same, which is there's two big things. There's the instructions of like what to do. And then there's the knowledge base or the library that you want it to look at. And Gemini does the same thing. Claude does the same thing. But those are the simple elements. There's instructions and there's your knowledge base. And then each of those we can talk about, well, how do you get to that and how do you make it work for you?
Okay. And so this custom GPT, like why do I need a custom one versus just typing into, like when I go to the main page and it says like, what do you want to do? That's normally where I type my instructions or my prompts. Like exactly. Why do I want to do a custom GPT or something else like that?
Yes. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that, and I'm sure you've experienced this if when you use a ChatGPT, you might ask something, you get something back, you ask more questions, you get something back. Some of you have used it, you may have really long conversations, right? Mm-hmm. What's happening when you do that is it's remembering just that conversation. Now, if you start a new chat and you start over, they're sort of changing this, but for the most part, everything starts over. So one reason that you want to use a custom GPT is because it stores things in memory. It's a loose way of saying memory, but it basically knows what you want. And for example, when you craft a prompt, you might start first with the role. You might say, you are an expert copywriter in consumer services and blah, 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 right? When you do a custom GPT, you put all of those instructions and it's always there. You don't remember to say who you are or what you're doing. And you can count on it looking at your knowledge base. That too is one thing that if you do in just an individual conversation, you can upload a file, right? You can upload several files. Yeah. But when you use a custom GPT, you can upload a lot more. And it's there. You know that you don't have to keep doing it. You know that and that's what people mean by training, right? That's a fancy word for it. You've trained it on your information.
And so now, because I've created this custom GPT, this is now my intern, and I can go back and they will remember everything I've taught them every time I ask them to do this task.
Yes. And one of the reasons I like intern as kind of the concept is, if you think about it, if you work with somebody who's has very little work experience, but they got the hustle, they're really smart, they'll learn. Like they'll learn the next time they do it. But the first time you ask them to do something, you really want to make sure they understand what they're doing. And if it's high stakes, if it's like a legal decision or it has financial consequences, you're not just going to like give them the task and like trust what they do. You're going to take more care with it. And that's why it can be a good mental model to think of it respectfully, right? Because it is very powerful, but also like it's not as powerful as you. It doesn't know nearly as much as you do. So I really, if I could give you like one message, it's like, this is your tool. You use it. It does not use you.
Okay. All right. So I'm doing the custom GPT. And what you're saying is that there is knowledge and there's instructions. So talk me through both sides of that.
Yeah. And for anybody who's listening, if you want to open up a tab and look at ChatGPT, I'll actually point you where to go. So when you create a custom GPT on the left-hand side of ChatGPT, you'll see there's this area, it's called My GPTs or just Explore GPT. They change this all the time. Within that, you'll see other people have created custom GPTs that you can use. That's another story, useful. What we're talking about is you create your own. When you create your own, there's two major places. It'll ask for the name, but then there's this area called the instructions. And then as you move down the screen, there's places to upload files. That's what I call the knowledge base of a library. So for the instructions, here's one of my favorite things to do. Make ChatGPT help you write better instructions. So when I give that example of copywriting, which is a great one because we all know like things have gone terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Okay, so you don't want to be that person. So no. But you want instructions that make things really clear. So what I do, and I do this for every level of project, I will actually go in and refine instructions first. I'll say, I'm training or I'm creating a custom GPT. I want to help it be help me with copywriting. These are some things that I care about, or maybe I don't even know. I could just say, I want your help with copywriting. Tell me the best practice instructions for writing custom GPT. And what it will do, because it's great at this, is it'll come back with a structure of, well, you should give it some things about the role. You should, point it to your voice and tone and tell it more about it. You should have, if there's any structure that you always want to have in your answers, you should state it there. And it will walk you through how to create the instructions. So you don't just have to do it all by yourself. You make it help you talk to it better. And so that's instructions.
That's instead of having to learn how to prompt, I just talk to it, tell it what I need.
Yeah. Yes. And the key to this and the key to everything with AI is don't believe what it tells you. I mean, and I mean that lovingly.
Okay.
Like never, ever just take something as an output and assume it's right. And this is the one thing I'll say, like, I love solopreneurs. Y'all my people. And I'll tell you why. Because like at the end of the day, it all comes back to you. Like it's yours. Right. And so one reason that, I would ask you, I beg you, take a role of authority here. Like, don't just assume that whatever it tells you is right. Your judgment is so much better than anything that it's ever going to give you. So when I say you use that process to get instructions, I don't mean you ask it, you take it, and you put it in. I mean, you ask it, view it. And I would even say this, I argue with it. It doesn't, you're not going to hurt its feelings. Sometimes I'm like, that's dumb. Like, that's not what I told you to do. And it will respond. It'll give you better results. And it might have its feelings hurt, but you can do it anyway.
You told me that, and I now argue with my GPT, right? I would say, like, why did you give me that answer? That's not the best quality. And it will go like, you're right. I was balancing this, but it then tells me what it was thinking. So then I can correct it. And basically I'll say, don't do that no more, in a nicer tone. Sometimes. Yes. And helping it learn. But so like I would tell you that, like, that number one tip you gave me to fuss at it made all the difference.
Well, it should, and partly because it is this thing of you can't let go of control, right? You really have to be able to read what it says. And I'll give you a really simple example, which also will probably share way too much about my personality. I have a thing about Oxford commas. I don't like them. I don't think they belong anywhere. I don't want to see them. Okay.
Girl,
I
the M dashes, the M
and the
dashes.
end dashes. Okay.
No, no.
No, no. And the other thing that I don't like about AI generated stuff is how it throws in emojis. Like if I wanted an emoji,
Yeah,
I would have put in an emoji. I don't want to
I
see
am.
your fire emojis. Like
I
I
am
don't
not
need you giving
16.
me. I know. Like it's like giving me emotion. I'm like I didn't ask you for that.
Yeah.
So in everything I write, I say no Oxford comma, no emojis. I also sometimes say no divider lines. Sometimes I say no M dashes. And you know what? It doesn't matter how many times I've said it. I will tell you that every 9 or 10 times it throws them back in. And this is the thing about generative AI is so sophisticated. It really is. And I'm such a fan. And it is not there yet. You cannot take everything
Yeah.
that it comes back and just assume that it's always consistent. 9 times you might get the right thing. The 10th time, you may not. So don't be kind of lulled into a sense of like, oh, it's got this. It makes things faster. It makes them better. It does not replace you. It can't.
So okay, so I love that point, and I wanted to us to look at a different use case because I think when it comes to copywriting, right, people it's easier for me to know when something's not right, right, or it doesn't feel like what I want to deliver. But there's lots of other roles that I think that AI can play to make my business easier that I think I get a little bit more nervous about. So like, tell me about another way, another role that you have in your team that you use
Mhm.
AI for.
Sure. There's a few of them. And there's one that I've been doing recently, and I think they all kind of come back to the same idea. And
Hmm.
I say this again from the perspective of a solopreneur, right? You know your business, you know your market, you know your customers. Well, I'm in the middle of, as Tara said, launching a company, and I really needed to refine our pricing. Our pricing is complicated because we have a new type of product. So I want to run pricing research. So I trained a GPT to be my kind of in-house expert on pricing research. And I
Hmm.
pushed everything through it. Everything from here's what I want to understand, recommend the methodology, now recommend the survey instrument, and then, and when I get the results back, I can push all the results with it back to that same custom GPT and get the analysis. Now, way back in the old days, I worked in big companies, and I know how much that costs, and I know how complicated it is. For marketing nerds among us, it's a multivariate pricing analysis. So
You're
it's
so
complicated.
fancy.
I am fancy, but I mean, here's the thing. I've done stuff like that before
Mhm.
where we paid consultants $100,000 or more to do those. I just did it with a custom GPT. Now, maybe you don't do pricing research. Let me give you another example. Okay. Another example is I've trained it because we're early days, right? Changing things all the time. I've changed one to be my strategy partner. Now,
Mm.
there's an example of something you never want to give up. Okay. I get it.
Mm. Oh yeah, talk to me about this because I'm like I don't know about that.
Exactly. Okay. Now, this all goes in that as the idea of you can't give up control. But
Hmm.
what I have done is I've made it talk with them. Like, I want to use you as basically a thinking partner as I'm as considering changes to our strategy and trying to figure out what that's going to mean or what that will do. And
Yeah.
so in the instructions, I'm like, this is what I want you to do. Here's how I like to think about things. And now ask me questions to help me refine
Mm.
instructions. So as an example, I like when I look at strategy, I have a way of like, I think of things at like the 50,000 foot, like give me the high level and then now give me the execution. And all my solopreneurs out there, you know exactly what I mean. You are responsible for both. Does it make sense at the very high level, but also doesn't matter if it makes sense at a high level if you can't execute, right? So I want a strategy tool that if I say, hey, I'm going to move that launch out 2 weeks,
Hmm.
what are the implications of that? What should I be thinking about?
Ooh. Oh no! Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So again, and if it gives me back an answer, that doesn't mean it's the right or only answer, but it definitely makes me think better. It makes me see things I might not have. Because we all know, like we live with cognitive bias, right? We live with
Right.
ways that we forget that we know certain things or that, oh yeah, I should have thought about that. So that's an example where like the pricing research, I use it as an expert. The strategy
Mhm.
tool, I use it as a thinking partner, and sometimes when I argue, a sparring partner, but mostly as a thinking partner. Now
Yep.
you can do more complicated things. I actually have one trained against my financial model too. Yeah,
Okay.
complicated. I make it sound fancy, but
It's a whole financial model. It's very fancy.
it is. It is. It has numbers and everything. No, I start with it just because, unless you're somebody who's not afraid of accounting, in which case
Yeah.
you understand, like you can't go wrong with something like that. But all it's doing, again, at the base of the functionality here, is it's recognizing patterns and it's doing it very quickly. And so so that's why it works with financial models, but it's also why it works well with language, with words.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm convinced. I could use some of these in my business. Like, how do I even start thinking about that? So in terms of like how I know what are the what's the right work to outsource to my intern, and even walking them through the steps. Can you give me a little bit more clarity on that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing has nothing to do with technology. The first thing is for you to actually think about your business and about what matters. If you had more help to do something, if you could pay someone as a consultant to help you do something, what would it be? So first, like start with where there's actual value to you. Partly because that way you're really going to get you're invested already, right? You know what you need. So start with something that actually would either solve a problem that you have or something that, it takes a lot of time and you don't want that time, right? You don't want to waste that time. Now, that's why I pick copywriting, because a lot of people spend a lot of time finessing their words, right? So it can save you time, but it's not the only thing to do. So first thing is figure out what actually will matter to you in your business, and what makes a difference. And then you can think about, kind of what's your objectives. Now, when it comes to building it, there's two things you can do. One is the route I first went down, which is shape it in terms of the instructions, like what you want it to do for you, and think in terms of the knowledge, the kinds of things that you want to collect.
Mm-hmm.
We can get more into detail about what those things look like, but they're actually, even that, if you don't know what I mean, ask ChatGPT. How can you help me break these instructions? And it will tell you, right? The second route, and this just depends on how people learn, but the second route is you can actually take apart these GPTs or a custom gem or a project yourself, and you can see how it's created.
Wait.
Yes.
Say
Yes.
more.
Very helpful. So, as an example of this, when I mentioned in ChatGPT, the reason people call them custom GPTs sometimes is because they came first. And what OpenAI did, is they created a marketplace of these custom GPTs. So right now in ChatGPT, you go to that left side, you go to Explore GPTs, you can search for and see the kinds of things people do. And now, depending on the way it's structured, you may not be able to see underneath it, but you can at least see the ideas. In Google's Gemini, for their gems, they actually let you open up and see what's within them. And so you can see their instructions and how they've trained it. Claude has similar things with projects. The truth is you can see examples. So I'm talking about kind of two different examples. One is what you use it for. The other is how might you structure it. And both of these things you can just find easily. Like, give me examples of instructions for this. Give me examples of, here's another one. Go specific to your industry, your expertise. Give me an example, Tara, of something that somebody does, some awesome person, maybe like
Also,
you.
I am an executive coach. How about that?
Okay, so go on in to whatever your tool of choice is. I'm an executive coach, and I'm thinking about creating a custom GPT to help me with my business.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me 3 questions to help figure out the best type of custom GPT for me, the first one to start with. When you do that, it will ask you questions, and it will help you, and it will help make recommendations with rationale. You don't just want someone to tell you the answer, you want them to tell you, tell me that. So you can actually turn that right around and make it say, for what I do. Now you can get even better. How about this? I'm an executive coach, and I'm trying to build out my business from, serving this type of group to also serving this type of group. or I've got lots of, one-on-one contracts, but I want to try to see if I can get a company to hire me. Something. Give
Yeah.
it your problems. Give it your problems, and you can get the suggestions back to make it more tailored to you. And that's an example where you take the reins, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to tell you what I need, and now you tell me how you can help me.
I did something like that. It was so powerful. But like I was asking it for, hey, I want to launch this new product. Give me a strategy. And it gave me a strategy. And I actually said, that sounds real basic. That sounds like the same type of advice that everybody has on every website. Do better. Do it again. And I pushed back on it, or they said something and I said, okay, well, given the economy, that I'm not sure that still works. Is that old advice? And then it was like, well, you're right. Let me tell you how I might do in this new environment. And so like that, being able to kind of have that dialogue with it,
Mm-hmm.
made a huge difference on the quality of, I think, what finally came to be the answer that I went with, rather than the answer it first gave me.
I think you just raised a good point, and an excellent point, and one that I forgot to mention, which is I've talked about a large language model as pattern recognition, because I think that's really helpful. But here's the other thing. What every large language model has done, all the big ones that we use, is they have analyzed and collected a huge amount of data, and they do it all the time. And so, for example, in the world I'm working in right now for my company, I'm looking at careers.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think like, oh, job data, right? Or job searches, right? Maybe there's like all these official sources to explain what's happening in the job market. And I'll tell you, none of them are as good as a large language model right now. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because large language models are collecting information all the time, not speculation on what's going to be, but what's actually happened. So one of the things you said when you were giving that example is, wait a minute, I don't think that's current. And you're right. You did. I'm sure you did need to push it on it. But what you're reminding me of is you can tell the tool, the ChatGPT, go check for the latest information. Go check for, make sure that this is the most update. Check all web sources. And sometimes you do have to remind it of that. And in fact, in instructions, one of the things you can do is say, check these sources in this order, or disregard some sources. So that idea of using it almost as as a much better Google, right? Much better.
Say it, right?
Yeah. You want to search for information? I would already say at this point, you're going to get better search results and better information through a ChatGPT or a similar tool already.
Well, and even with the time boxing, when you help me create that one custom GPT, like I have one that helps me write. And I actually have to do research on what are the hot topics over the last 6 weeks for my audience personas. And so like I've built it in that it only looks at a certain time frame for certain types of people. And that and having that be repeatable was actually really, really valuable for me. And so that time blocking, I was surprised at how different, how powerful that was to do for what I needed. Okay, so one of the questions actually came in. And trust me, Q&A is coming up in a few minutes. Don't worry, y'all. They are chomping at the bit over here, just so you know. But I think it goes with the conversation we're having now, right? So I now have these different interns based on what I need in my org, and we're starting to hear a lot about automation on top of that, right? Whether it's agents or like, how can my interns work without me? I think is what automation really says, right? So what do you think about that?
I think first of all, it's an excellent question. And actually, I teach a course on AI and automation. So I agree. And I didn't start there, partly because it sounds intimidating. When we talk about automation, let's separate out a few ideas. So automation happens without AI. Some of you may have used Zapier or make.com. These are just tools that they do exactly what you think. You tell them, if this, then this, if this, then this, and it will execute for you, right? That's automation, doesn't necessarily involve AI. However, you can, as one of those automation steps, use AI, and it can do really powerful things for you. So a classic example would be pull my my Monday morning sales reports, analyze for any unusual trends, any anything. It could be almost anything. You can imagine what you train it to do. And the automation is it's going, looking within your system, looking at the data, and then giving you back something. Now, that's a really simple example of what an automation does. When you do an automation, you almost always are using a tool like Zapier or Make.com, there's more, where you're telling it exactly what to do and you're giving it the rights to go get that information, right? So I can't just tell an intern, go look in the accounting system unless the intern can actually get access to my accounting system. So within an automation, you're using a tool. Now, agents, okay. Lots of people like to talk about agents. It's like the big buzz phrase, and different people do different things with agents. So I would say the most common current definition of an agent is where you let AI take an action for you. Meaning I give essentially my access to, I'll use again, my financial system, my e-commerce platform. I give it access to go look at that information and pull things for me. And really, an agent, you wouldn't do just that. For an agent, you might actually have it go, okay, let me pick an enterprise example.
Okay.
An agent you might train to go look at all of your customer support tickets and ongoing trends, analyze where there's any kind of patterns that are emerging, take action to summarize that, to send alerts, to respond directly to customers for common types of questions. Agents can do that. And that's a lot why people are excited, because in a company, they're thinking about how they can replace people. And this is also why there's a lot of fear about AI being a replacement. Now, let me go back though to everything I just described is super, super basic. So as a solopreneur, what you bring is so much more than the basic, that the idea that an AI agent is ever going to replace, I should say ever, but is going to replace you, I can tell you I can't even see it. We're nowhere near being able to capture that. So now I go back to the of an automation.
So with automate, as a solopreneur, what I hear you saying is that automation is sounds like it could work. I don't know. They're making me a little nervous about whether or not an agent is the answer for my level of business.
Well, I wouldn't start with it if you yourself aren't really comfortable with technology and those systems. So I'll give an example. Any one of you solopreneurs, you probably use, depending on what you're doing, 5, 10, 15 different types of software platforms. Maybe you've got where your bookkeeping is, maybe you have an e-commerce platform, maybe you have these other things, okay? If you feel pretty comfortable about the configurations of those and how you set it up, then you got everything you need to build automation. But most people don't, especially as a solopreneur. Like, you aren't doing that stuff because you love it. You're doing it because you're running a business, right? So it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just wouldn't be where I'd start, because I want for you to have control over it, right? I want you to feel like you're in control of those choices. And so it may take more to just dig in and figure out exactly what do you want it to do. The great thing about automation, though, is you can test it and test it and test it. Now, automation also brings in a concept you'll hear a lot about: human in the loop. It sounds, I don't know, like human in the loop. All that means is that you don't let an automation go either too far or too much or too long without there being some human check.
So that's adults in the room at some point.
Yes. And you program it. I mean, that's not a bad word, but you instruct it.
Okay.
In these situations, take no further action and alert me, like through an email. So that example of customer support, it's a great one. In a customer support scenario, let's say that you're a solopreneur who does run an online business, an e-commerce business. A ton of questions that you get, the answers are already there. They're in an FAQ. Somebody didn't see them. Like, you got the answers, and it can take a lot of time, especially coming up to this shopping season, right? So you could train an agent, or you could do an automation for AI to hear the question. Remember, it's looking at the language, hear the question, figure out what the question is, and if it fits within this range, answer it. But if it fits in this range, if the tone is angry, you can really tell, like, not just like, are they asking about something basic? You might want to protect the quality of your relationships with anybody who's really upset about something. So you basically, in the automation, you're like, stop and alert me. I'm going to take it from there. So what that does for you, for your business, is, let's say, out of 100% of those customer service tickets that you're dealing with, you can get rid of 80% of them because they're pretty predictable, and it is something you'd have an intern do, right? You let them do it, right? Because
Nice.
also tell that intern, yeah, if somebody's really pissed off, come get me. Don't,
do not break anything. Okay.
exactly.
So Susan, we got a ton of questions that people are still asking. So we're gonna bring Marilyn up while we talk about
Hey.
Q&A. But actually, like Marilyn and Susan, I think there's this first question, as you were talking about automation and giving access. Carla's question actually was the one that kind of really caught my eye, right? And the basic of her question is like, how much of this is even safe? Like, safe to use on my own personal computer, safe to give access? Like, so let's talk about privacy and safety.
Yeah.
Very, very good questions. And one, just like props to anybody who's thinking about privacy and data security, because we are kind of lulled into a sense of like, oh, it's nothing's private anyway, right? And so people kind of forget, like, actually, you have a right to control those things. And when we were talking about those custom GPTs, I'm just suggesting you train it on a bunch of your data and your information. So yes, you are right. You should care about that. Now, the good news is that everybody cares about this, meaning that there are lots of very large businesses that are depending on these, and they have and are quite specific about the care that they take and the restrictions for it. Here's the hard thing for people like us who are not, Fortune 50 businesses, right? They've got legal teams that can do this. For us, we're using tools that are really kind of consumer grade. And I'll tell you, they change the terms of service frequently. So the first thing I'll tell you is, don't believe me. No, the first thing I'll tell you is, genuinely, if you really care, like, you should always feel free to ask about the state of privacy, and it will give you the true answer. It will say what it's doing and what it doesn't do. The kinds of concerns that people worry about. One is the concern of, are you using my information to train those big models?
Right.
I don't want all this expertise of mine. I'm not giving it away for free. You don't get it, right?
Yeah.
So let's take that one first. That's just, how do I keep it from having those conversations go anywhere? Now, ChatGPT does have something called a temporary chat mode. You may have seen it. It's in the upper right. And when you do that, it's almost like an incognito browser mode. Like, it promises you're only going to keep this, and this is going to stay in this conversation. And once the conversation's over, it's gone. It doesn't exist. So, for example, so you can use that, but what it's doing is it's not going to retain anything.
Yeah.
And the value in using these often is in what it retains. So now the question is, well, I want you to retain stuff, but I want to know where it's going. As of right now, and again, they keep changing it. As of right now, if you have a paid version of ChatGPT, then it will directly tell you, we are not using your information for training purposes.
Interesting. I was going to ask you about the difference between the paid and the free, because I know when we started, I started with free, and then something said, I'm using this thing almost every day. The least I can do is pay for it, and it's not super expensive. And so I was wondering the benefits of that, because what Carla is saying is she felt like her friend felt like maybe her computer was hacked after they started using this technology.
And I'll tell you, I mean, for what it's worth, I've never heard of that. I don't actually even know how it would happen. People get hacked through a browser, right? You can get hacked that way, absolutely, when you interact with code. But what's happening in a ChatGPT or an LLM is you're asking it questions and it's giving you things back. You haven't given it access to your operating system or to anything else.
Yeah.
So I understand.
I do know, like, I went to log in Perplexity one time, and it was like if you didn't type it in right, there was a fake one that came up, and there may have been ways that they can get your login to something, in that kind of way,
Yeah.
but the actual LLMs themselves, with you asking questions, can't do that.
That is such a good point. And you know what? The other point you make here, and we all know this. Everybody's AI, right? Now we are all seasoned people. What do we know when there's a fad or hype like that? We know the hustle starts, and people are going to look for ways they can get your money. They're going to look for ways that they can make you feel uncomfortable and threatened, so that they can get things from you. They're going to look for ways to hack, so they're going to take advantage of it. So I do think that that's always what I mean. That's just technology, folks, and that's not just AI.
Yeah.
That's in general, right? So be skeptical. Be skeptical for sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing is Tara is my IT department. She's the unpaid IT department for me. She don't want me clicking on nothing.
No,
So
you're banned.
yeah, yeah. But that is truly
Mhm.
a real situation that we all have when you don't have a big IT support system backing you up. But Donna's been throwing out a lot of good questions. Hey, Donna.
Hey, Donna.
Hey, Donna. I'm looking at the question, and Donna, I do this actually. There's not an easy way. So Donna's asked if everybody can't see it. How do you transfer? Let's say you start with ChatGPT and you put a lot of time into it, and it does things you want, and this, by the way, is true story, happens to me. From time to time, Claude is so much better for something. And then they make changes, and I go back and do more in ChatGPT.
Right.
Okay, so I really understand this. The question is, how do you move it back and forth? Now, the advantage of what we were first starting to talk about with a custom GPT is those instructions and that knowledge base is easy to move, right? It's exactly the same thing in Claude. So let's say I'm going to pick on Claude for a moment. And what you would do is you would take whatever you have in a custom GPT and you would capture it as instructions. You'd move into Claude, you'd create a project, and you'd just move the instructions over, and you'd make sure all the files are there. Now, that'll do for the custom GPT, but the other thing I think you're asking about, Donna, it's a good one, is the longer you spend time with ChatGPT, it is collecting memory about you, and that can be really useful. So it also, by the way, can be really wrong. I want to make sure that you know where to look for that, because it's different. And actually, I'm going to make sure I see this on my own GPT of where it is, because it changes. But if you go into the settings of your chat, of just your general account settings, you'll see within that a setting for memory. And sometimes at different times it's been like advanced and you have to click on it. But when you click on it, it will actually tell you what it's keeping in memory. And you have got to look at that stuff, because there may be things in there that aren't actually correct, but there may be things in there that are fantastic. And actually you want to keep it and codify it. So definitely, like, make sure everybody, if you're using ChatGPT, go in and check those settings, because it's a subtle thing that they don't tell anybody else about it, but it's actually changing your conversations. And there may be something incorrect there, or better, there may be really useful insight that it's pulled that you want to make sure to take to another tool.
So as you talk about moving between GPTs, we've talked about Claude, we talked about Perplexity, and you've talked about that some are good for some things, some are good for other things. And then Carla over here is like, even what are the legitimate ones? And so maybe it's worth having just a very quick conversation about kind of who are the ones, again, as a non-technical person, not building an app, what are the ones I should be considering, and when do I use what where for now?
That's a great question.
It is a great question. And I would say, it's where all the billions of dollars have been invested. That's the short answer, is the companies that have put billions of dollars into it. And it is like 5 companies, I'll tell you right now. OpenAI runs ChatGPT. Anthropic runs Claude. Perplexity is its own company, just for, at least for today it is. Google has Gemini. Microsoft has Copilot. And Meta also has its own sort of semi-open source, right? I'd say don't dance with Meta for a number of reasons. I wouldn't personally recommend it. But those others that I said, those are the big ones. And right now, in terms of workers across the world, the vast majority use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It is about 60-70% of the market. So if you're going to start anywhere, I would really recommend start with ChatGPT. Way more people know how to use it. You may be able to ask friends about it. At least gives you an anchor point. The second most popular is Claude.
Mhm.
And there's people who have but the thing about it is almost weekly, there's improvements on these. So when I say I think you should be agnostic, I don't mean among 20 tools. I mean probably among 3 or 4. Google has been, a year ago, Google's Gemini, well, actually, I don't know if they launched it yet. It was almost laughably bad. Now, today, it is like skyrocketed. Many people think it's better than ChatGPT in many ways.
Mhm.
So, but again, it's all the big companies. That's how you find the legitimate ones, are the ones that have big money.
You
Well,
know what,
I've
Susan?
pasted the same prompt into multiple
Yeah.
AIs to see what it came up with.
Very
I'm sorry, Marilyn, what were we saying?
What I was gonna say is, it's like, and we had another guru talk where the speaker said, "You are the wizard, and it just depends on which wand you want to use." And we, like Tara just said, we've sat next to each other, and you put the same prompt in 2 different applications, and surprisingly enough, it wasn't super different. It just depended on what the focus was, because I think at that time, Tara, we were
Mhm.
using chat, and was it Gemini? I
Claude.
don't. It
It's
was
chat and Claude.
Claude,
Mhm.
right? So here's the funny thing about it. I don't know if Claude still does this because I don't use it that often, but it kept asking me questions that pissed me off. I was like, anybody who knows me knows I am not trying to answer no doggone questions all day long. And so Tara's like, step away because you're about to throw the computer. I'm like, yeah, it's asking too many questions. Of course, the output. But I mean, you use what is most comfortable
Mhm.
and then graduate up to the next thing. But I don't think people need to get tangled up into too many, because I think you
No,
will spend an enormous amount of time trying to perfect something, and you give away some of your magic
Yeah.
Mhm.
when you do that. And one thing, Susan, you said was there is no replacing all of the experience that us as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs out here are capable of, all the things that we've built our businesses around and on. There's no replacing us. There's
Yeah.
just ways to enhance some of the things that we're doing.
that's right.
Exactly. It should help you do more and faster. And I mean, truly, I almost, it would have been a different life for me if I'd had this tool when I first started. I don't know if I would have gone into big companies at all. Like I would have been, because you can do so much more and so much faster. You can launch, you can build, like whatever it is your business is. I'm telling you, it really can make things both faster and give you more confidence about the decisions that you make. It's like having somebody, it's like having the, well, really smart intern or a really dumb business partner. I don't know. Something like that.
Wait a minute. So Marilyn and I are business partners. Which one of us is the dumb one?
We will not answer that question, but we all know it's not the big brain here.
You know what? I can't think of a better way to close this conversation. Really smart intern or really dumb business partner, you choose. Susan, thank you so much. Like this, every conversation with you is a masterclass. Um, y'all.
Tara, wait. Let's talk about it. Masterclass. So,
Hmm.
listen, Susan actually talked a lot about a lot of different things, but I bet you all still have a few questions that you'd like for her to answer. And she has been so generous to say, hey, I'll do a deep dive session in a few weeks where she will do real time prompts, demonstrations, so that you can see how she's actually doing it. I like to call it the show and tell, because as you all know, people learn in several different ways. And sometimes it's so beneficial for you to actually see someone doing it and then ask your questions as she's doing it. There's a QR code
Mhm.
in on the screen. If you would be interested, and I think you should be interested in just seeing Susan work her magic, because like Tara said, she spent a few minutes with Susan, and it really, really changed how she used
Mhm.
AI. So click that link and join us in a few weeks because Susan is going to do that deep dive. And no matter which one of these business partners has the biggest brain, we both came together to agree that we needed to continue this conversation with Susan.
Awesome.
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, we'll talk to you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we'll
will.
see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, you.
Now,
Yeah,
so like we will show. We actually we'll bring the QR code back up so you get a chance to look at it. Like we are so excited because Susan was willing to do this hands on. Like it's $99. It's 1 hour. It will absolutely, like I said, like 1 hour completely changed how I did AI. And then I told the whole team. The whole
yeah,
team got better at AI.
yeah.
And we want that for you as well.
So please click the link, share
Yeah.
it with your community because I am sure you know a gaggle of folks who need help. And we're just all trying to figure this doggone thing out. We have random prompts, things like that. Sometimes you're a little apprehensive to use certain things, even knowing how to approach some of the different AI programs. Bring that to this session that Susan's going to do, and she will walk you through it. It's going to be a really, really wonderful event. With that said, though, Tara, I am so excited that we had another great guru talk.
Yeah. This one, they're all fun. This one was really, really fun. Susan is just absolutely amazing and knows everything. When I say everything, but she's someone that is so generous with what she knows and how to explain in a way that even somebody, even the slower of the business partners can get it. Um, and what I so love about Guru Talks, and then if this is your first time at a Guru Talk, for us, Marilyn and I were thinking there's all these resources out there that are for people that have big teams or time to learn social media, things that we don't have as solopreneurs. And so the idea is having gurus tailor their knowledge to our audience, to people like
Yeah,
us who don't need another full-time job, but just need ways to do our job easier. And I'm so thankful for people like Susan, like some of the other ones that you'll find. Like we have a full library on our website of replays for other Guru Talks that we've had.
absolutely.
And when we finish this, the Guru Talk will go on that replay as well. Also, we have a podcast. If you're looking for other ways to learn, Marilyn and I have great conversations. We talk real talk about what it takes to be a solopreneur, some of the problems and challenges that we have, things that are unique to people like us. Um, and so please feel free to follow our podcast on any place that you listen to podcasts. Anything else?
Listen, Tara, I just have to say this again because we are inundated with so many emails, so many posts on social media about, hey, pay $1 million for this. Hey, pay $1 million for that. And then you join them because I know many of us have done that. And our voice is never, ever
Mm.
heard. No one fully understands exactly how it feels to be in business by yourself. But we do. And the things that we're putting out there are specifically for the challenges that solopreneurs face. Some are not as exciting as others. We talk about all of it, the good, the bad,
We are
some
always
of the ugly.
exciting. How dare you?
Yes, yes. But anyway, again, thank you for joining us. Link and follow, share the information, sign up for our upcoming podcast, not podcast, well,
Deep
upcoming live
dive.
demonstration, deep dive with Susan. Y'all know I get my words tangled up at times. But anyway, please share this with your community. As you said, so many of you said, it's very informative. It'll be even more informative because you will actually see her work her magic and use as many tools as she can to help you move your business forward. With that said, Tara, as always, it has been wonderful to be here with you. on this Giving
And
Tuesday. I
you.
told you all it was a Giving Tuesday, and we were giving you all a lot of good free information.
Thank you for being a gift to us. Thank you for being in our community. And we will see you next time.
Yeah. Have a great day.